of NIST and Department of Homeland Security taking a delegation to Europe and Brussels and learning about the NIS and how to apply those lessons and those technologies that have been developed elsewhere in Europe and bringing them back to the US. There's hope, but it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but yet the hackers are hacking us daily. I mean, they're 3-4 steps ahead of us. But the opportunity is for us to educate the consumers and really apply a new standard, a new framework of how do we protect individual privacy as well as individual identities.
Thank you. And Jeffrey, Maryland has been, anyways, that's the perception we get from outside, maybe from films, is the hub of cybersecurity of the United States, together maybe with Salt Lake, which also is very big now on cybersecurity and in particular cloud technology. Is cybersecurity a major economic growth for a state? Is it states can create jobs, can create startups around cybersecurity, and if they do, what is the strategy in Maryland?
Sure. The state of Maryland certainly is considered the epicenter of cybersecurity, mostly because of the strong presence with NSA, Cyber Command, NIST, and the other agencies that are there. I think it's important to think cybersecurity is a really cool word, but what does it mean? And I think that there's a lot of talk about it, but I think it's really about ones and zeros. It's about the user. And I think that focusing on the technology is a quick way to make money, but it's not about solving the problem. And so I think that one of the things that we have going on in Maryland is that this tight geography of both customers as well as education institutions as well as a startup community, and this evolution from the past where it was very heavily focused on services and addressing the customer, U.S. government as a customer, to really approaching various sectors and saying, what are the problems that sectors have? What can we use from what we know in the past and apply those to developing new companies with products, whether those be software or hardware products, to address very specific customer needs. And I think that's the most opportunity. It's a wonderful business model. I wish I had come up with it as a hacker. I love it, but is that it's never going to go away. This problem is never going to go away. Every single person in this room, every network, every piece of data that you have is already corrupted. That's important to know. And I think that from a business model perspective, either whether you're trying to think about investments or just solving your own internal issue, is to realize we've already been invaded, and how do you handle that problem?
Especially if you project that over the next 10 years. I mean, by the year 2020, we're going to have 50 billion devices connected to the internet. I was with the World Economic Forum in a meeting with Chancellor Merkel in Germany, where the vision was that, for instance, car companies are not anymore a car company, they're a software company making cars. So now the shift is towards those companies to become platforms, knowledge platforms, and being able to secure their products, because, I mean, hacking a phone is fine, but imagine hacking your car in the future, or hacking your house, or hacking your power grid, or hacking your nuclear stations. I mean, the Internet of Things is there already, and the same things apply to cybersecurity, and personal data applies also to Internet of Things. So it's a huge possibility for the United States to be a leader on that.
Sure, it is an incredible opportunity for business growth. I mean, this Internet, and I call it the data of things, is a great opportunity to increase efficiency, to really grow your business and to address real problems. But on the flip side, there are an insurmountable amount of issues that are out there, and you can't address every single risk in cybersecurity on a daily basis. It's just the volume is too much. But it really is about hedging and identifying what are the risks and what are the ways that you're going to spread that across your portfolio to say we're going to address this from a risk perspective rather than from a defensive perspective.
So Greg, first Greg, as we have two Gregs. Just on your experience, one of the things we are realizing also, and in the advice work my company does, but also at Davos, is that when we approach companies with cybersecurity about a few years ago, if we talk at CEO or board, at board level on cybersecurity, say, look, this is not my problem, talk to the IT guy and he will talk to you. obviously the IT guy was only looking at the technology. Now with the new threats on Target losing their valuation, Home Depot a few weeks ago, JP Morgan, and this is going to be recurrent in the month ahead, CEOs are getting concerned that the cybersecurity is not a concern of the chief security officer, but is his concern, as if basically the entire company valuation can be wiped out by just having a bad communication issue on cybersecurity. Now, how you help companies for your investigative work? What's the process? If I am a CEO of a company and I really want to know if I am protected, and I call on you, what I should ask you and what you should be helping me with?
Yeah, that's a broad question, but a very good one certainly. And this is the old corporate espionage. Now cyber threats, it's taken on a new name, and you can do it from 1,000 miles away and get proprietary information or employee information and so many different things. The way you can infiltrate a company. Is it still involve an insider? Yeah, the probability of that happening is still high, that there's somebody inside who's helping or making the process easier. But the CEO has got to know that it's a team effort. It's not just IT. It's not just the hierarchy of the company. There's so many different ways to do it. There is still a simple physical aspect to it. And it's all about lowering the probability of falling victim. But your reputation is on the line. Certainly the proprietary information you're protecting is a big concern. And now these executives are traveling so much and taking their laptops and their zip drives and everything else with them. It's got to be looked at as part of the whole picture. You can't just narrow it down to an executive or the C-level or IT. So you go in there and try to get your arm around everything and narrow it down the best you can.
But don't you realize also, maybe it's my observation outside the United States, that the corporation thinks cybersecurity as a fortress, meaning the bad people are outside, inside we're all good people, and therefore if we buy a lot of technology to protect the perimeter, we are safe. But 99% of the latest cybersecurity threats happen inside. Right. Happens because we bring a mobile phone, which is unprotected. Happens because we are not able to segregate personal data with the corporate data. How do you protect, or how do you advise companies to protect against those threats?
I mean, the foundation for that is a very solid set of policies and procedures to start. But it carries on from there. It works in a layered system. Having a policy for a terminated employee, a disgruntled employee. All these simple things now hold a lot of weight and can cause a lot of damage. So it might not just be a cyber threat after information. It might be sabotage or other issues that can cause a great amount of damage.
But I think you touched on something really important. This is not a technology problem. Technology is the tool, but everything in cybersecurity is a people problem. Whether it's bad design, whether there's a bad actor somewhere trying to do something, or internally, it all comes down to the people. And so it's not just the CISO's problem. It's not the CSO or the CTO. This is an entire company's issue, or an entire ecosystem's issue, is that it comes down to the people. And how are you going to address not just the disgruntled, but how are you going to train them to be aware that bringing in your device into the enterprise is going to cause problems. And if you make it difficult, we all know, people are going to figure out a way to get around it. So it's, your passwords are complex, people will take them to their keyboard. So it's...
But the technology is there. When you work in good technology, good has this technology to allow you bring your mobile phone inside, which is totally protected. So why are not we using it? Why are not investing? Why corporations don't buy this technology faster?
At times it's just, they have so many priorities. And in the past, this hasn't been a big problem. But ask Target, ask Home Depot, ask any company that's been hacked. It's a major problem now that's now reached the board level. The CEO and the board members are liable. And many of them have started to lose their jobs over this issue. But in the past, there were so many priorities that they said, oh, the IT guy will take care of this. We'll put a firewall and we're safe. We're not. I mean, we ourselves are the largest amount of, we have the low-hanging fruit. I mean, hackers look for all of us, and that's their way in. Whether it's a personal device or a corporate device, It's how you manage your data, how you protect the data. The devices at times is irrelevant. It's the data in the network.
And the network is irrelevant.
Just to, if I could, Carlos, just to interject as it relates to what our firm, Redwood, is predominantly involved in, which is merger and acquisition and corporate finance and private equity world, to echo some of the comments made here, we're seeing more and more boards elevate that security role to either the CEO, sometimes an independent chairman who may have some expertise, and importantly, in M&A processes of a company within any sector, especially large cap acquirers are adding that type of cybersecurity diligence to their closing checklist, in addition to financials, in addition to calling vendors and customers. They're adding an element of that because what they don't want to do is be in a situation where it's been ignored or underinvested in for years. Then they acquire the business and inherit a lot of those issues. So it's come to the fore as it relates to the value of businesses. And unfortunately, some of the high-profile cases that are all across the news, it's unfortunate for those businesses and those CEOs and boards, but the silver lining is it's created awareness at a much higher level, even with mid-sized players, to focus on that more as it relates to value building.
But Gregory, are we investing enough on cybersecurity? I mean, when we are talking about the massive revenue generation possibility of cybersecurity market, the fact that we are reaching 180 billion by the year 2018, why are we not investing? I mean, if you really look at the number of companies on cybersecurity, you still have RSA, Symantec, those are 20 years, 15 years old company, with the exception of FireEye that just entered the market about a year ago. There's nothing else. Why are we not investing more in cybersecurity?
It's a great question. I think if one looks at the statistics over the last couple of years of investment in those businesses, most of them are actually very early stage startups. We actually looked at some of the data, and over the last kind of 12 to 18 months, over 60% of the capital deployed into cybersecurity related companies were in either seed or A round investing. So what that's telling us is, and this is of a several $billion private equity and venture capital companies, what that's saying is there are a whole generation of younger startups that are addressing some of these new emerging needs, but they're at a very early stage. And the positive side is as well that the types of investors that are focused on this are some of the world's leading venture and private equity groups. If you look at, again, in the last 12 to 18 months, the top investors in cybersecurity early stage companies are literally, Intel, Kleiner Perkins, Sequoia, Accel, Andreessen Horowitz. So the smart and the high IQ investors, the cream of the crop of Silicon Valley and that related ilk are investing, but they're targeting young, smaller players. And what that could mean, Carlos, is over time a consolidation play where some of the larger or more mid-sized public or private groups get critical mass and are able to bring in some of those capabilities from some of those hot prospects of some of those high-quality venture-backed companies.
I think the consolidation is a critical point of cybersecurity because my experience is that, for instance, if you try and, when I am a private company, I'm trying to sell to top 500 firms my technology, the first question they ask me, when are you going to be public? Because I don't trust you being a private company on cybersecurity because they're giving to you critical assets to protect. So the problem is that you're only going to be a public company after a certain time. So what happens between that moment and the time I become a public company? So I guess consolidation is a solution, but another solution is also to educate VCs that cybersecurity is not like social media, that you can create a fuss about it and just collect money. I mean, cybersecurity is a long-term process that requires first a company to go through the process on building trust, because it's all what it's all about, right? Trust. So yeah,
and that's expensive. It's both in time and resources. But I would say, in Maryland and their general region around that area, we've seen in the last 24 months a large number of ex-government employees. So NSA, PhDs, ex-military have gone to create these new companies, many of which are getting invested by those organizations. The